The Black Phone is directed by Scott Derrickson and stars Ethan Hawke, Mason Thames, Madeline McGraw, Jeremy Davies, and among others. And in this story, it is set in 1978, where a group of kids are essentially being abducted by this person that's known as the Grabber, that's played by Ethan Hawke. And not to go into too much detail, but essentially it deals with one of the kids that gets abducted, Finney, who is played by Mason Thames, and he's trying to essentially survive from what's going on, and he learns a lot more of the previous encounters that the Grabber has done with the kids that have been abducted by him. And along the way, it also deals with his sister that's trying to also find out what happened to him, and it essentially also takes into some themes about, in some ways, coming of age as the kids are essentially going through their life in school and things like that. Now, here's a little backstory. Now, this movie was directed by Scott Derrickson, who I am a very big fan of. Ever since I've seen him do directed films such as Sinister, and he also directed the first Doctor Strange. I've really been fascinated with this director, and I can even go back all the way to when he originally did one of the direct-to-video Hellraiser films called Hellraiser Inferno. That out of the franchise, I actually do kind of find like his most underrated one of the most underrated entries of the Hellraiser franchise. And for it being a direct-to-video flick, I thought it still really did great with telling a kind of psychological take on the universe of that series. And I really thought it showcased a lot of what Scott Derrickson could really do with horror as he later went down into directing other films. There is another one of his that I haven't seen yet, but it's called The Exorcism of Emily Rose, and I might check that one out eventually someday. But what got me interested in this movie was the idea of seeing Ethan Hawke playing this kind of like creepy guy who kind of looks like has a top hat like Willy Wonka and stuff. And he has like this kind of smile that's very like reminiscent of like the Joker and stuff like that, and just or these creepy masks that he wears. Sorry, it's just in him, the idea of him pretty much kidnapping these kids really got me interested. And upon seeing the film, I can honestly say that I really loved this movie a lot. I thought that not only was it really creepy at times, but I really enjoy the way that it played out with its story. And to get my pros out of the way, I thought the cast in this were phenomenal. Like, before I get to Ethan Hawke, I thought the kids were really great in this, especially Mason Thames, who plays Finney. I thought he was really, you really feel for the guy at times in the story when he's trying to survive and trying to escape. And then also his sister, Gwen, that's played by Madeline McGraw, she really carried a lot with this movie. And every time that she was on screen, I really felt her presence, and I really felt like you can really see a lot of the struggles that she's trying to go through in order to find her brother. And one of the other things that I think really holds the ground with the two leads is the fact that you have them going through their kind of family struggle where, let's just say that their dad in this is pretty much an alcoholic. And this is a film that was also based on a story that's by Joe Hill, who's the son of Stephen King. And I find it very interesting that this movie was trying to, and maybe it's from the short story, but maybe it's from the story that it's based off of, but it seemed like they are really going into the kind of tropes that you would see in a lot of Stephen King stories, where you have the alcoholic dad, you have some bullies that take place and things like that, and there are some other little references that you can kind of get from other stories, like one of them being there's a part where the girl is wearing a raincoat that looks like Georgie from It, and so you get a lot of that. But what I really enjoyed about this take that they played with the alcoholic father in this is that at first he does come across as pretty much a very a piece of shit that you're waiting for something to happen and everything, and he's just so unlikable. But as the movie goes along, I did actually really start to grow a lot more with the character, and I found myself actually appreciating the fact that they were able to give him a little bit more layers of his character by essentially making him more, not necessarily likable, but there's a side to him that makes it feels like it on a more realistic angle that I appreciated, where he actually really does care for his kids and things like that. And so, and you do also you don't really get to know like too much about their backstory with the mother, but it is kind of hinted that some of the things that it's involved with the mother plays a big role with how the characters are in this, and how certain events happen that the characters are going through. And I'll just leave it there because there's too much I can't really go into detail with. But the other things I got to really appreciate the most is, going back to performances, Ethan Hawke. I thought this was actually one of his most, like, not only really his best, one of his best performances, but it's like his most creepiest, because I have never seen Ethan Hawke play a villain before. And since he's always been known as playing the hero in a lot of movies and stuff, and kind of the guy like you see in a lot of movies where he's just trying to stay out of trouble and stuff, it's good that he went against type in this, and he pulls a lot of the creepiness factor to a T. Like, not only is there so much stuff about him with that mask that he wears, but also just him taunting the kids throughout the movie, and also his like different masks that he used. It really does have some hints about what his personality is like, because I really think that what they were kind of going for was, like, he basically has like more than one personality, so to speak. Now, I don't know if that's really if that's really in the story that it's based on, or if that's really the intent they were going for. But if they really pulled it off, because there is some stuff where you don't really get to know him like much as a character, but you get enough to where you kind of see, you can see what he pretty much does. And I appreciate that they gave him this kind of mysterious vibe to where he is creepy, and there's stuff to him that he really puts with these kids, and he does some pretty menacing stuff throughout the film, and very creepy, that it really makes the movie work in a lot with that regard. And then the rest of the movie too, the way it's shot and everything. Not only does Scott Derrickson really capture the '70s very well, because the production in this, it reminds me a lot like how they shot like Licorice Pizza from last year. How that movie was very shot like it was shot on a film, and I'm sure this movie was shot on digital, but just that look that they were going for, it really does look great, and you can really tell that Derrickson was trying to make it capture the feeling of in the '70s, and also have that kind of like Dazed and Confused kind of vibe. Because in the beginning, I almost kind of thought I was watching pretty much a sort of a remake to like a rebooted version of Dazed and Confused, when they're playing certain songs, and there's a baseball game that happens at the beginning. So that was one of the things I do. One of the other things I got to really get a kick out of was the soundtrack. The other biggest things I got to really appreciate the most is the music. The music is not only very haunting at times, but it just really captures the really intense scenes that play out, and when we get to see a lot more things that come into play with the story, with all these kids and everything, it does actually have some nice little details that Derrickson was able to capture with the way that it kind of foreshadows events later in the film. I won't go into detail, but let's just say that, I mean, if you've seen from the trailers, you kind of already know how pretty much the plot is going about, where Finney is essentially trying to get help from, let's just say, the other kids that the grabber has encountered and everything. And the way it plays in effect, I thought was a great payoff, because even the smallest little details they use, especially toward its climax. Well, if I do have like just any kind of little minor cons, I will say that while it is, playing the story pretty straightforward and everything, there is some stuff that they could have really added a whole lot more to, and maybe really expand upon, at least enough to really get us to why certain things are happening. Like, they could have spent a whole lot more time where the kids that have been that the grabber has encountered before. I really think that they should have went more into detail with that, and really show off more of what we could get with the grabber and what he was capable of, to a certain more extent. Because as much as Ethan Hawke is so great in this film, it does seem like he doesn't quite have as much screen time compared to what we thought going into the trailers and everything. But I think that they at least use him enough to where it still would have been cool to have him doing more like freaky stuff and things that really build more into why he's doing everything. And the other thing I can say too is that there is some stuff that happens conveniently that you're kind of watching it as the movie goes along, and it's like, how exactly would that have happened, or how exactly would a character like that would have known that, or believe another character from something that they're going through besides them telling them. I'll leave it there because it's a really big major plot point that I can't give away. But beyond that, with the little minor cons I did have, I still really enjoyed this film a lot. And with that, I'm going to give the film a low phenomenal grade on the Film Freaks meter. I really do enjoy this film, and I can't wait to see what Scott Derrickson does next. Could have had a lot more brutality and stuff. Yeah, there could have been some other things they could have really established more with and added on. But I still had a great time with it, and I really thought it was definitely it was one of my most anticipated films for the year for me, and I'm glad I got a chance to check it out. So, for those of you who've also seen The Black Phone, let me know in the comments below what you thought about it, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next review. I'll see you later.